Hey everyone, Kate Bora and Fiona Pierman joining you for this week's Facebook Live, where we continue to talk about the impact language has on our confidence, on how we feel about ourselves, how we show up, the courage we have, but equally the impact our language has on building brand profile and influence with our key stakeholders. And today we want to dig into some of the how-to. We've been giving lots of examples around the impact some of these minimizing or over apologizing or justifying language has. But let's talk about how to do this and talk about maybe some different ways that you can do this.
Absolutely. The piece here, as we've been talking about, is getting really conscious. What are some of these things I'm doing by default? And then how do I start to shift my behavior around this and start experimenting and doing things differently? And the first thing we want to make sure is that you're really clear. Get really clear on what you want to say. Often we say, note out a few bullet points so you can remember what it is, and get to the point rather than jumping in and trying to explain everything around it and padding it, because that often means we lose our track, and often people lose track of what we're trying to say. I think the next thing is we really want to be direct in a way that's authentic to you. Many of us like being warm, being curious, being engaged, and we can still be direct with that. It's not an either or. We can inquire, we can assert in a way that's direct and feels really genuine.
Yeah, I think using silence is powerful. Often we try to go ahead and fill silence with words that don't have much meaning or don't add much impact. So start to practice getting comfortable with silence. Practice with words and language, practice with volume of words of language, practice with saying very, very little, practice with saying more than a little, and just play with this a little bit. It's the experimenting and the testing and the learning that is powerful here. As you put words out into an ecosystem or into a conversation and you observe the impact you're having, all of that learning will support you to figure out actually where is that really sweet spot where what I say, how I say it, delivers the impact that I'm seeking to create.
Yeah, I think a piece here we always say around experimenting is being willing to get it wrong, take a little risk, try something new. This is very much having a growth mindset, being willing to give something a go, even when we're not certain how it will turn out, and we learn from it as we go. And, in terms of how we might do this and some specifics to look at, if we're saying things like, this might be a stupid question, or if I don't know if I should ask this, you can simply go to, have we thought about, or would we consider? And just noticing the difference when we hold it not as a minimizing thing about what might be wrong, but we're genuinely curiously inquiring.
Yeah, I think another one, and I use this actually consciously and quite strategically, which does that make sense? Now, when I say it, particularly when I'm coaching, I'm saying it with purpose because I'm seeking to confirm that what I'm saying, what I'm landing is resonating, impacting, and making a difference for the individual. But a lot of people use, does that make sense, as habitual language at the end of a statement. And I think again, once we recognize, particularly the habitual side, and just sometimes we can just stop saying it, we just say our sentence and pause. So that's one thing that you can do. Or if you do want to shift and still have that kind of sense making meaning in your language, you could try my sense of this is, or one perspective to consider could be.
Yeah, I think there's a really important part about catching some of the things we do. And one of the big ones we often hear people say is things like, oh, to be honest with you. And there's usually a good intention behind that. We do want to reveal something, we do want to get something out, but it often makes people query what it is that potentially you haven't been honest about in other conversations. And so you could try something like, it's important we consider, or I'd want to make sure we include this in the conversation. And just noticing again the difference of the way we hold it in ourselves and the way we offer that particular phrase into the conversation rather than the more minimizing and justifying language. And even things like using the word just. As we say, it's just that, or could I just, or using the word just is very often, it makes us seem small and it makes us seem tentative. And so we can simply step in and ask. We can say it is, which is more command conversation. It's more direct, it's more authoritative, which again carries weight rather than tentativeness.
Yeah, I think, or a question we need to consider is, that there is leadership, direct language, there's command language around this is what I think. And in most cases, Fee, we know that that's exactly what, you're wanting to convey, that, hey, I've got something we need to really look at here. Here's a question we need to consider. But often the way we position that means that we come across as less confident than we would like, less certain, and that has an impact, with our stakeholders. I think the final one we want to dig into, of course, is apologising. I will often say I'm a mirror very regularly for women when they say, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, you don't need to apologise, right? So that is a big, frequent piece in my world around holding a mirror up saying, you don't need to apologise. We want to apologise with consciousness and intention, not habit. And so, I'm sorry to bother you, or I'm sorry when we're saying I can't do something, sorry, I'm not available, or sorry, just I'm not available, right? Or thanks for the opportunity. I can't do that. Then I could do it now. But really starting to, and I think these are where the small wins are. A big part of the design philosophy of acts of confidence is those small micro steps, those small micro habits are starting to shift and change things so we show up a little bit differently. And as we do, we change things for ourselves in terms of how we see ourselves, but absolutely we change things for those, our stakeholders in our world, in terms of how they experience us as well. So being able to be conscious of this apologizing habit. And then my preferred piece here is just to stop it, right? But if you do need to shift it out for something in terms of language, because sometimes just stopping something can be hard. It's easier. We know this from the habit science. It's easier to replace it with something. So instead of I'm sorry to bother you, hey, there's something I'd really love your help with. Do you have a couple of minutes? Starting to build our toolkit of language that allows us to switch out some of these this language that we use that doesn't serve us and definitely doesn't serve you in terms of your personal brand profile and influence, and starting to switch in some language that will make it easier for you to make that transition. It can be really powerful.
Yeah, I think the opportunity here is to really dig into where this is occurring, take those small actions. We've just been on a session this morning, people reflecting on what they've learned through the Acts of Confidence program. And a big one was about boundaries. I'm able to say no with confidence. I'm able to stop apologizing. I'm able to do something that I wasn't doing before. And each time we do that, it reinforces a habit and we shift from the old default unconscious behavior into new conscious intentional behavior. And that's, I think, the opportunity that means we will be serving ourselves, enhancing our confidence, but also having that impact on our stakeholders around us.
Speaking of acts of confidence, the next program starts in a couple of weeks. So if you would like to go deeper with the conversations that we have weekly on our Facebook Lives and connect with an incredible community and build your own self-coaching capability, reach out. Contact us at coreconfidence.com.au. You can find out more about the Acts of Confidence program there, register your interest, or of course, if you're ready, sign up and join us for that next program.